Okay. Hello, everybody. It's me. It's Brian. I'm back. It's Tuesday. Uh, as you saw, my chat said, gatekeeping makes Hulk want to smash. It's by the way, today's episode of the Breaking Security podcast and Twitch stream is brought to you by Blumera, which provides easy to use SIM and XDR that can be set up in minutes. Teams of all sizes can resolve security threats faster with detection rules written by BreakSec's own Amanda Berlin. Learn more at blumera.com/break. So there we go. Get that out of the way. Pay them bills. Pay them bills. Um, so you can go check that out. Uh, so I follow this person on Twitter, and I'm not going to disparage that person. And this is going to be a bit of a shorter stream than normal. I did it like a 2.5 hour stream on Sunday. Um, that was crazy and awesome. And thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with me on my 2.5 hour odyssey. I'm prepping for my daughter's last choir concert tonight, so we have to be there around like 4:45. So this is going to be like an hour long, so I can go shave my ass and whatever. So um, the tweet. So let me read the tweet. I'm not going to out this person. God, I'm not going to out the person on Twitter because I think their heart was in the right place. I just think no context theater kind of made it bad. So it was technical presenters. They're calling out technical presenters. If you say like more than 3 times in 30 seconds, I will totally stop listening to you. Some people reacted negatively to that. Obviously, there was no context there in terms of technical presenters. For a lot of people, technical presenters are what they see or hear at a conference, for instance. And a lot of folks, kind of dogpiled as they are wont to do on Twitter with this person, and we're saying, you're gatekeeping, and you're not a good person, and all this stuff. And they go on to say down here, let me see. Public speaking is a skill. No one is good at it right away, and that's okay. HackerCons, meetups, everyone started where you are and will be understanding in an enterprise setting or with customers. If you want them to listen and comprehend, you have to be able to speak. And in this case, it's uh, uh, well, kind of like just what I did right there. You can't say uhs and ums and likes a lot, apparently. She had some issues with, she ended up having to mute her audio and listening to the closed captioning. And the point I think she was making there was that you need to be able to, and maybe it was because that person was speaking to customers and was not confident about the product or didn't have their script down properly or something. As you can tell here, when I talk, there's a lot of ums and ahs, and I should, and sometimes for me, my brain is moving faster than my mouth will work. And I, when I started working on the podcast early on, and eh, so to go back even further, I was on another podcast before I started breaking down security. And the reason I started breaking down security was because the previous podcast didn't want to do security stuff. They wanted to do cool, geeky, alpha white dude stuff. And I was like, yeah, I want to do security stuff. And so I started my own thing. But when I would talk with the person who ran that podcast, he would tell me that it was very difficult for him to edit out all of the ums, uhs, ahs, and that I had a lot of them. And he's like, you need to, speak better. And I was like, wow, that kind of sucks. That's kind of a shitty thing to say. This is, of course, 10 plus years ago. So we've made up and it's better now. I think the point was that being able to get your script down, get your product, known and to polish, if you will. If I had a script that I was just reading off of, like if I was reading from a book or something, I'm not going to be the old man catches the fish in the sea, whatever. You're gonna have that book and you're gonna be reading it and you're gonna have your shit down proper. And so, depending on if you're, how you are about conferences and things, uh, you know, that is what it is. So uh, I think she got dogpiled on quite a bit, but I think there was a bit of time between how she explained herself and the context that she added to it, and um, yeah, there was a lot of hurt feelings. I actually was like, maybe you shouldn't have said that. And then of course I read what she had said afterwards, but um, it's one of those things now. I'm catching myself every time I say it or say or uh, mm, that sucks. I hate that now because now I'm like hypersensitive about it. So yeah, go speak at conferences. Make it make it something that I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed now. You don't have to be eloquent at a conference if you want to speak. And if you know that you have specific inflections, embrace them. Know that they make you unique. And for anybody who speaks at a conference, especially if they're not used to speaking there, that is nervous. That is nervousness. That is nerves. And if you have, that's why I suggest people come on podcasts because we're very conversational here, and I know I have peccadillos that I need to work on. Maybe something as simple as a script, like the one I read from Blue Mira, or if I'm opening up my ye old technical book. Oh God, I gotta say it's a technical book. Um, maybe that spend a little time writing speaker notes on your slides that you can use and refer to when you're going through your slides. And you know what, the upside of that is, for most of us who have most of us most people who go to conferences, their slides are nothing but a bunch of memes, which no context theater. You don't understand what the person was talking about when they put up a cat driving, and then they go into a whole soliloquy about risk management or what have you, and you're like, I don't understand cat driving. There's no speaker notes or what have you. If you find yourself where you don't, where you need to have that kind of polish, it might be helpful for you to create some speaker notes, or at least a rough outline. See, these are all the things that I should be doing myself, but I don't do that. I need to, especially if I go to a conference or something. So there's ways that you can improve your signal and get rid of some noise. There's definitely no gatekeeping from the person that tweeted this out. It was just that if you're trying to sell something or you're trying to impress a customer, the ums and uhs and ahs and likes may come across as less confident in those things. So that may be where she's, it's a skill, like she said. No one is good at it right away. That's okay. Uh, and so, lessons in public speaking, people mention Toastmasters, but, for us introverted folk, those, I've never been to a Toastmasters, so maybe I don't know. I don't want to make any snap judgments. Um, it feels like those people would be very outgoing and be very high energy. So it's just something to think about when you're doing that. Yeah. So go speak if you have an opportunity. There's meetups. There are, don't have to go to a HackerCon. You could go. Sorry, you could go on a, podcast or stream, I know one or two. If you have something you want to talk about, don't hesitate to reach out to those folks. It's very much like a CFP. We were trying to run this like a CFP for a while. Of course, that didn't work out very well. But if you want to come on and talk about something, you can sit down with me. We can discuss the topic you want to talk about. Uh, get you on podcast, get you, it looks good on your resume too. Hey, I spoke on this podcast about threat intelligence or, something. If you can't talk because your job and your company is a, shitty company and they don't want you to, speak publicly, you could always, we could always withhold your name and, we can put up a funny picture or something like that for your Zoom or background. That way you don't get identified, and then we can later identify you if you want to de-identify and like the Stig or whatever. But yeah, there's opportunities for you to speak if you want to speak and you don't feel comfortable speaking at things like conferences or what have you. So there's always options. Hit me up. I know some people who would be more than willing to entertain you on podcasts or streams or what have you. So I'm not going to share my screen with this either because I have kind of a friendier kind of thing going on with a publishing company about a book that I'm not editing for language and semantic discussion. I'm editing for like how fucked up this book is, right? Back in March, I think I mentioned this in some of my March streams as well about this book that is coming out called "Creating a Risk." What was it? Cyber risk management thing. Cyber risk management program. And the person, the actual editor, had reached out to me originally and said, "Hey, you know, thought you might want, because I signed up on their website to do this stuff, and I didn't actually expect to get, tagged for this." And this person reached out and said, "Hey, I've got this book. If you're available, we're gonna pay you a little money, and we'll go through and do all this." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I went through the first and second chapters, and a couple of the questions they asked me about the book overall for the first two chapters was, based on what you've seen thus far, would you give the book a thumbs up or a thumbs down? If you give it a thumbs down, what are the main issues with the book? Wait on that. Based on this description of the book and intended audience, what is the book? Is the book achieving its goal and reaching its audience thus far? If not, what needs to change? So, according to the description of the book, it is the first. This book is the first to present a formal program for managing one of the most urgent issues facing enterprises today: cyber risk management. Digital or cyber technologies are transforming the way the world works in ways so fundamental that the current economic period is being referred to as the fourth industrial revolution. Digitalization, communication and collaboration using digital techniques. So that's the definition of digitalization, which is something I don't even think there's an actual word for it. Let me see. Digitalization. Now I'm not sharing my screen on purpose, y'all. So according to Oxford Languages and the dictionary, by typing in digitalization on Google, it's the adaptation of a system, process, etc., to be operated with the use of computers and the internet. So already these folks are using a term, I don't think it means what you think it means, right? So it gets better. It gets better. So the book description also says we'll present a detailed frameworks for designing, developing, and implementing a cyber risk program that addresses enterprise-specific needs, targeted at a broad range of viewers or readers, from corporate directors and senior executives to security and risk practitioners and auditors at many levels. Okay. It clarifies enterprises and boards' oversight obligations as defined by international standards, case law, regulation, and board-level guidance. It goes on talking about cyber risk. It's not about practicing risk management, but far more specifically and more importantly, about how to define and establish a sustainable, defendable cyber risk management program. The problem I've got with this is the biggest issue I had when I interview or when I replied to chapters 1 and 2's feedback was the book company that makes these books. They're geared for a specific there's a stereotype for this book company. And I do not see a board level person buying this book and going, oh, thank God, here's a book on cyber risk management program establishment. I'm going to read this. And that's what I told the editor. I was like, I don't see a CEO buying this book and actually taking the time to read it, or the chief security officer or the CISO of a company and reading this book. By the time you've become a CISO, you should have probably had some experience setting up a cyber risk management program, which only leaves the fact that it's going to be somebody who wants to be a CISO and is wanting to understand how to create a cyber risk management program. Now, I've never set up a cyber risk management program before, and I've only read 4 of the 8 chapters that are available. I actually have chapters 1 through 6 now of 8. I'm through chapter 3 and part of chapter 4, and I have yet to learn anything other than the types of frameworks that are available, which I could have done with some Google searching. Hey, Age of Music, what's up? Sorry, I got on a bit of a rant because I'm doing this book editing thing. So I got through chapter 3 and I sent my feedback to her last night. And I said, "Hey, oh here, let me read what I wrote her." Said, so the first thing I said when I did chapters 1 and 2 was I was like, "Thanks for the let me do feedback." I gave them specific feedback with screenshots, and I said, "Hey, I realize criticism is harsh, but these folks work at big company in senior leadership. I expected better, that kind of thing." So I wrote back and I was like, first thing they talk about in chapter 3 is they bring in Uber, Twitter, and Credit Suisse, which is a bank. Obviously, Uber being the car company, the alternate transportation company, and Twitter. And they were trying to use those as examples of why you need agile governance. Agile governance. I don't know what that means. I have yet to figure out what that means because they didn't actually explain that in chapter 3. Cool. Thanks, Asian Music. Yeah. So, and the other thing is in the book, they say, oh yeah, this kind of risk governance needs to be created by the C-levels and the board of directors and all of these folks. And I'm like, okay, so this book is for C-levels and board of directors who are never going to read this book because by the time you've become a CEO or a board member, you've probably been in one or more risk management programs. And I said, the first thing I said is I did a look through chapter 3, remove the examples. I don't think the Uber example is a good example. I don't think the Uber, boy, I didn't write that very well either. I don't think the Uber example is a good example of risk management governance because the C-levels were rotten there. And this person, in the book, they referenced the bug bounty program that was paying out basically blackmail. There's also some pending litigation there still from Uber. They obviously hadn't updated this since March, and there was a story that came out in May about how the CISO had escaped prison sentence. So there was definitely some stuff that needed to be updated. Credit Suisse still had, they found out apparently that, they were, handling money of some pretty bad people. And, there's still some pending litigation there, and they're putting this in the book. And my thought was, by the time this book goes to publish, the examples in the book may have changed, right? Credit Suisse may have lawsuits going against them. And the other one was, let me see. I said the idea of the chapter is for leadership to pick frameworks that work for you, but the best one is agile governance. So that in the chapter, there's several options there, like risk based, agile, which I still haven't figured that one out yet. Um, and so they make comments about, for one thing, most security professionals aren't well positioned and in fact aren't usually qualified to make what are essentially business decisions. Uh, and I actually was kind of offended by that because I'm like, well, as security professionals, we must help the business make decisions concerning how the business operates, how the business works, the risks involved here, the risk management, if you will, that should already exist in an organization. And I did some OSINT on these folks. Age of Music, you'll be happy for me. I did some OSINT on these folks to figure out where they work. One of them actually reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, after chapter 1 and 2, and hey, I'd like to talk with you about what we're trying to do with this book and everything." I kind of it wasn't hard, Age of Music. I just Googled the name and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's him." And yeah, so it wasn't difficult by any stretch, but it was like he wanted to reach out and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know what we're planning on doing with the book." And I kind of ghosted him because I was like, "I don't. That makes me uncomfortable because I don't want to be influenced by the author." But it's like if they this comes back to kind of the stuff that I was talking about on Twitter. They're not even able to write in such a way that makes me want to read the book when it goes to publish. Um, and I'm not you'll know the book when you see it. Um, I'm gonna have to probably delete this stream before it's over with. Um, but yeah, the examples they use were just not the ones I would use. I would more likely go with a made up one that makes sense. Don't talk about stuff that's in the news because they talked about some of the Twitter stuff and they're like, oh well, Elon Musk, he said when the adult one of the headers was like when the adults leave the playground or something like that, and I was like, whoa, okay, you're talking about Twitter and you're talking about all this being childish and shit, and I'm like, maybe don't go that route. Maybe you just play it safe and play whatever. So I did hit up the editor and I said, how many more chapters do you have? Because I feel really bad. She's like, oh, if you don't want to continue with this, that's fine. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be that person because I'm like, you know, I don't want you to have to try to find somebody else. And if I leave, it may not look well for me to get other book stuff. And she's like, oh no, people do it all the time. And I was like, God, what does that mean? So, if this is the only book I get to do, then that's fine. But it was like the funny thing was I'd actually told her at the end of the email, I was like, sorry for the rant. I'd actually hoped the book had been canceled because it had been like 3 months since I'd heard anything, and I thought, oh, they already had all these, you know, because of my feedback or because of they read my feedback and realized they need to go back to the drawing board or something. I hadn't heard anything back, and I was like, oh well, I'm not going to hear anything else. So the book wasn't wasn't canceled. So it it really gives me kind of an insight into how the book publishing, at least the book editing world goes, in terms of some of this, because it's obvious that the other thing was like they used flowery words like the most critical ever, and I was like, you can't have the most critical, you know, or what did I? It was like chapter 3. It was like they were talking about the Tylenol recall stuff, and they were like they literally it was like they literally removed mostly all or something like that, and I was like, what the hell does this mean, kind of thing, and and I don't want to bag on them, and I have been, to be honest, I have been bagging on them a little bit. It's hard to write a book. I've talked to Ms. Berlin. It's hard to write a book. It's hard, especially if you've got a partner to write the book, especially if they don't live in the same area. Geographical locations and time zones are a bitch. Miss Berlin and Lee Brotherston, who did the Defensive Security Handbook for O'Reilly, I think. Yeah, because they had the porcupine or something like that. But yeah, it's difficult to write a book, and they managed to put more words on page than I probably ever would want to, and it's hard. It's hard, and yeah, I try to give them that grace, but if I go back and I read it and it doesn't make sense to me, or it makes legitimate missteps, I feel like I have to call those out because this book, somebody's going to buy this book going, "Hey, I want to establish a risk management program," or "Hey, I want to be a CISO one day, and that means I need to know how to understand, setting up a risk management program." And then they read this book or they pay $30 for this book, and they're like, "Okay, well, this is how I need to do it." And they're gonna, you know, maybe I have a different experience than them, but it's like some of this is garbage. Some of this is hot garbage. And it's like, or some of this doesn't make any sense. Or, disparaging, security professionals in one time and then saying, oh, we're ultra skilled and we don't know what risk appetite is or risk tolerance in another chapter. So, calling them out for those kinds of things, or, what have you. So, it's hard, and I'm hoping that they will take my feedback for what it is. I'm just one asshole with one opinion, but some of the stuff they're saying just doesn't make a lot of sense to me from my years of being in security and IT. And what I don't want is this book being passed on to people who think it's a good reference or resource, or worse, my name ending up being in there like, oh, technical review by Brian Brake, and it's like, oh, what the fuck did Brian do? He didn't do shit. Oh, I just read this book, Brian. What the fuck? So I'm trying to give them some feedback that won't make us all look stupid. So is what it is. So how you doing, Agent Music? I am a ranty bitch this week. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are going to join me on Friday, we're going to start learning something called Zig. Beta Wolf was telling me about it. One of the issues I had with Golang was it's not backwards compatible. So something like Rust, or in this case, something called Zig, is is the thing that I'm going to attempt to learn next. And by saying learn, I will probably learn it as much as I did Golang, just enough to be dangerous. And it may be that we end up doing Rust or something like that as well. I'm just not a fan of having to install a bunch of, you know, uh, Visual Visual Studio plugins, or Visual Basic what have yous. Comfortable and prepared for tomorrow. Oh yeah, oh, so wow. So you did the 100, the 200, and the 700. Okay. I thought that was weird. I thought that was weird how they bounced around. It was like 100, 200, 700, and then 300, 400. And I was like, well, 700 should be like 7 times as hard as the 100, right? Um, I'm assuming they just cover different parts of the ICS stack or what have you. So, wow, you got all of those in the last what, 4 days? Well, I remember the 100 was like 25 multiple choice questions or something like that. So it makes sense. Very cool. Well, yeah. Let us know how that goes on Friday when you show up to our stream, and we'll talk about that a little bit. All right, let me close the things that won't get me canned. Qualitative risk management, yes. Oh, anybody see the demo of the Google, or not Google, Apple glasses, the Apple goggles, not Apple Googles, the Apple goggles. Yeah, these things. I'm not gonna pay $3,500 for these things, by the way. Um, Plain fact of the matter is, I get motion sick. I'm not gonna miss this job over something simple that I could have done the other guy brought to the table. It makes sense, Age of Music. I'm glad you were able to get those certifications. I don't bag on anybody getting certifications. I have numerous certifications. Some of them I'm probably going to let expire, like SANS certs. I can't see spending another $7,000. Actually, I would maybe be able to pay for them. It's one of those things where if I took like the GCIH again, like the class, you get like 36 credits. So I could automatically do that and it would be like $7,000. Might be something I talk with my boss with in about 2 years, and see what happens. Since I'm in San Diego, I just wait for Sand Security West or something like that to come out and where I got my my GCIH in 2017. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I got my CISP for because every job that I wanted in security required a CISP, right? I got my bachelor's degree because every security position required a CISP and or a bachelor's degree. I was one of those people. I still am, in many respects. I have to interview for jobs. You know, it's not like one of those things where it's like I can reach out and flex my network and do that. I still have to interview for positions. Um, I was one of those people for the longest time that was like, if I didn't hit all of the bullets in the job description, I never applied, which probably did, you know, I probably could have been hired at a number of jobs that I didn't apply to because I was like, oh, I don't have, 25 years of a Unix experience or something like that. So yeah, good on you for getting your some industry leading certifications there. Um, yes, the badges are just there to make the nice HR lady shut up. Exactly. Um, yeah, it gets you through the filter, the screen, or whatever their age of music. Yeah. So I'm not going to pay for $3,500 Apple goggles because I get sick, motion sick, fairly quickly. I don't know how they're planning on. Maybe I go to the Apple store and I try them out. But after about 20 minutes, I start getting a headache and or migraine and nausea, and that's with maybe they figured it out and it's better, but I'm still not going to pay $3,500 for them. Um, so I mean, they got a huge ass head. Oh, I see. Okay. They say the Vision Pro does many things iPhone or MacBook: run apps, FaceTime, watch movies. Instead of manipulating software, you use eye movements and hand movements. Okay, so it's like, wow. Okay, that's different. But anyway, so they showed a video. Where's the video? Okay, these are like really big security goggles or something. You can see that somebody's eyes, or is that like a picture of their eyeballs behind you? Ugh, it's creepy. Um, so where's the demo video? Because the demo video had this, and it was like somebody was standing in the middle of a room looking at what appears to be a big ass simulated screen with these three people off to the side. And my first thought was, well, if she's wearing the Apple goggles, they're wearing the Apple goggles too, right? So how is she going to see their face? And the phones are going. Yeah, I have a feeling, before you know it, your phone's going to be like earbuds, right? You just, I mean, you already got my watch will already make phone calls. If I had a SIM card in it, it would make phone calls. I wouldn't need a phone. And it has, oh, what's going on here? Oh, need to charge it up. Yeah, I mean, my watch would make phone calls. It would connect to Bluetooth. The only thing I wouldn't be able to play, Flappy Birds or something on my phone on my watch. I mean, for years now, I've been using phones without SIM chips in it because they make a very effect like my iPhone SE around here. I don't have a data plan on it. I tether it to Wi-Fi. I just use it as a work machine. Most phones now, you don't need a cell phone on it if you have an ISP that has like public Wi-Fi access. Like up here, we have Xfinity. So if there's an Xfinity Wi-Fi access point somewhere, you just have to be within range of them and you've got data. But I tether to my other phone on my iPhone if I need it. Works out pretty well. AR is going to be the way. I'm hoping they figured out how to keep people who are motion sick away from it. The moment Luxottica gets involved in AR, you better have stock in that company, Luxottica. Oh, they're what is Luxottica? Oh, eye and sportswear. Okay, cool. Yeah. My glasses are like $50. I think I bought Shady Ray stuff. I was a Ray Ban and an Oakley fan for years, but oh, I see. I was a Ray Ban and Oakley fan for years, and then it was like you lose them, and you're like, shit, that's $350, And it was like that's a non-zero sum of money that I've just lost. And then it was like, oh, I can go and buy, uh, you know, They're not bad. They work. They're like $50. You got like 5 pairs. They're not bad. You know, they're not awful. And yeah, $50 for me is a lot less. But my thought was when I watched this, I was like, okay, these folks would all have goggles on too, right? You just be looking at people looking at you with goggles on. I'm like, they're not going to look like that unless those people are not cool enough to have that, and then they're going to see you with your goggles on. And you're going to look like a dork. So somebody on our Discord had mentioned, well, you're gonna take 5 minutes of video and create like an AR image of yourself that's gonna look like this. And I was like, well, if we're gonna do it like a the meta, the metaverse stuff with the avatars with no legs and shit, maybe that's something. But um, does Luxottica have stock? Luxottica, publicly traded firm. Stock ticker. Yeah, there we go. Luxottica stock. Who are they owned by? Oh, they're foreign for Ferner. Ferner Company. Easloy. Essilor Luxottica sponsor unsponsored ADR. Can I buy them on my I'll have to go look that up. Easloy. I'll keep track of this one. But anyway, yeah, I don't do things like, ride backwards in cars or ride backwards in trains or do roller coasters or anything like that. I'm pretty boring at Six Flags. I just go for the food. It is what it is. So, oh wow, stock futures are flat after S&P notches highest close since August. Ooh, solid. All right. Okay, good. Yeah. So, somebody will buy them for $3,500. I mean, they don't look horrendous, but yeah, it could be that. Yeah. So let me pull up. Let's see. Zig is a general purpose. Yeah. So Zig, the language that we're going to learn. This is one of the sites that you can go to for that. Age of Music. I love me some stock that pays dividends. So I love me, stocks like, well, I've had Walmart forever. I have Microsoft, Qualcomm. Iron Mountain is actually pretty good. Iron Mountain, bought them when they're in the downturn. Hasbro, so Wizards of the Coast and stuff. I've had Starbucks for about 10 years. Not a ton of stuff. I don't like have 100,000 shares of these things. I'm kind of not even a day trader. Um, but I enjoy stocks that have dividends that automatically get reinvested, because then it's like I just keep making money, right? I'm not worried about that 25, 35, 45, $70 of dividend that come through. Company I'm working at right now, I have stock, but they don't pay dividends. It's like, eh. So I end up trying to find, like the Alcoas of the world that pay out dividends. So like stocks with dividends. Yeah, here you go. It's good to diversify your stocks. Sounds like Wu Tang Financial over there or something. Yeah. So let me see. Oh, these are good. Whoa, shit! That's a big one. Okay. Wow. Highest dividend stocks. That's crazy. Look at that. Man, I have to go look these up. Some of these are good. Some of these are. I don't have any of these. I don't have any of these. I'll have to go look that up. Duplicate. Some of these are like, super expensive. The other thing is I don't try to buy stock that is. I'm not Jen Kramer, by the way. So if you're looking for hot takes, spicy takes, or whatever. Let's see. No, not MBS. Oh, there it is. There it is. Stock price from Yahoo. Oh, $19 a share. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. They're down right now though, yeah? Oh yeah. Look at that, 6 months. Get out of the way. Okay, so yeah, they're trading about off about $5 to $7. So that's not bad. It's not bad. Yeah, I don't I yeah, Wu Tang Financial, yeah. Yeah. There you go. Of course, I don't like Dave Chappelle, but the skit that they had with Wu Tang with Jizza and RZA were pretty funny. So, you can go Google that if you want to. Um, Not a fan of Dave Chappelle so much anymore, but yeah, it's funny. So yeah, we're gonna go through and we're gonna do this. I already have everything set up, so the one thing I needed, let me go and make sure that VS Code and activate VS Code. Um, this is so you go in so there is Zig support, so Zig language. When you do that, it says, hey, so if I uninstall it, and then I'll reload required. So we'll reload the system here. Launch extensions. We'll get Zig language support. One of the things you need to look for, especially in this day and age, because they're spoofing plugins everywhere now, is make sure that you get the legitimate ones from legitimate sites. Like I think we talked about the 60,000 spoofed Android apps that were being found on the App Store. They're on the App Store, and they are cracked or modded versions of somewhat legitimate software. Oh, that's unfortunate. So, it's people who are looking for, I don't know, age of, some kind of, like Flappy Birds or something like that, that is, requires you to pay for it or something. And they're like, here's Flappy Birds Pro, and it's free and you don't have to use it. So you'll get a copy of what looks like Flappy Birds, but it's got malware in it. So, but yeah, you install Zig language. So it's support for the Zig language. And yeah, so you download the ZLS executable. So that's the language server, the Zig language server, which does things like syntax verification and all that stuff when you're doing code. Um, hmm. Oh, is this a bad one? Oh, okay. This is the old version. Okay. So Zig unofficial. Yeah, I'm not gonna pick that one up, bruh. What does Zig offer that others don't? Good question. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to lie to you. I mean, I started looking at it. The one thing I did not like about Golang was I got to a point where I was like outside of the W3 school stuff, outside of when we were schools. I'm not a developer, so I don't, get involved in these holy battles or whatever, the religious battles. Once I finished with W3 schools, there was really the only other place I could go for Golang tutorial stuff was I had to pay for it, right? And it was like, my whole idea was that we learn stuff without having to pay for it. So once you went through that, then I didn't have anything to do. So the one thing I need to figure out this time, it's either we Zig or we learn Rust or whatever. So we'll go look at the benefits of Zig language. I think Beta Wolf said it was backwards compatible, so they um, so here's somebody's views from 2022 on it. It's a general purpose programming language. It's simple, does not have any hidden control flow or allocations. I don't know what that means. Hidden control flow. The language is clear, straightforward, and readable. So here's the hello world example, which, if I remember correctly, Golang was way, what do they call that? Way easier. It was like a one liner or something. So, I mean, you're already doing importing of something. So STD, which is what standard in, standard out. So that's the IO library, maybe. You have your main, func main right here. You're gonna do some kind of void thing. I don't know what that means. Constant constraint, maybe standard out. Standard.io get standard out writer, so it's making standard out write something, and then try. Not sure what that means, but try, and it's going to print standard out, print hello, and then this is, for some reason, you have to put spaces in like this to make hello world. So they mentioned backwards compatibility. They say there's no null pointers. So Zig does not have null, but they provide optional. So that's good. Does error handling. They said Zig is inclusive of errors. Too, it handles errors as values. Zig compiler ensures errors are handled and complaints when they're not. So there's oh crap. Let me move some shit out of the way here. I thought I'd turned VS Code off. There we go. A hell of a lot of syntax for 12 characters. You're absolutely right, Age of Music. I said I don't want to get into a holy war about that. That's a lot of work. But let me see. What was Hello World? Hello World Golang. So Go by example. Hello World was Golang. So they had package main import FMT func main FMT println hello world. So simple, right? FMT is the package for formatting school bus. I mean, that's simple for Golang, right? What is hello world? Rust hello world. So Rust Lang. So they've got a bunch of BS in here for all this stuff. So you don't need that. So you get func main statements here executed when binary is called. Okay, so there's this simple so just println hello world. So yeah, so it's a macro. Println is a macro that prints to the console. So I think what they're trying to do is show you that. So println is a macro. So what? Right, Age of Music. Yeah, just print hello world. Println is a macro. So what it sounds like is they want this. Scroll that over. The Zig stuff, is overly complicated, but there's nothing running in the background, right? They said flow control was and no abstraction. I think was the big selling points for that. Yeah, so let me see. Hidden flow control or allocation. So, all right, let's just do that. Why Zig when there's already C++, D, and Rust? Okay, so, wow, so they're self-aware enough to ask, hey, why do you need yet another programming language when there's already 3 others that will do that? And I didn't even know about D. So, yeah. No, so if Zig, let me make this a little bigger for all of us old folk. If Zig code doesn't look like it's jumping away to call a function, then it isn't. That means you can be sure the following code calls only foo, then bar, and this is guaranteed without needing to know the types of anything. So it goes var a equals b plus c dot d, foo, and bar. Examples of hidden flow control. So D has at property functions, which are methods you can call with what looks like field access. So in the example above, C.D might call a function. C#, D, and Rust have operator overloading, so the plus operator might call a function. C++, D, and Go have throw and catch exceptions, which we learned a little bit about throwing and catching exceptions. So foo might throw an exception and prevent bar from being called. Of course, even zig foo could deadlock and prevent bar from being called, but that can happen in any Turing complete language. No hidden allocations. Has a hands-off approach when it comes to heap allocation. No new keyword or any other language feature that uses a heap allocator, string concatenation operator. The entire concept of the heap is managed by library and application code, not by the language. Okay, so Go's defer allocates memory to a function local stack. In addition to being an unintuitive way for this flow control to work, it can cause out-of-memory failures if you use defer inside of a loop. C++ coroutines allocate heap memory in order to call a coroutine. In Go, a function call can cause heap allocation because Go routines allocate small stacks that get resized when the call stacks get deep enough. All right, I think I remember them talking about some allocating memory that way. And then the main standard Rust library APIs panic on out-of-memory conditions, and alternate APIs that accept allocated parameters are an afterthought. So nearly all garbage collected languages have hidden allocations strewn about since the garbage collector hides the evidence on cleanup. Okay. First class support for no standard library. It's an entirely optional standard library. So STD, so the STD library. I'm sorry. I'm like Jesus. Must be the other house. Somebody's ringing my doorbell. The other house, yes, the summer place. Oh, yeah, there's somebody at my door. Who's that knocking at my door? All right. Great. My coffee server's out there, so there's like about a 150-pound box that I can see in my old ass ancient ring camera. Your garage door. Whoa. Okay, somebody opened my garage door. Well, that's not good. Oh, maybe my wife was talking to our handy person down there. Portable language for libraries, one of the holy grails is code reuse. Sadly, in practice, we find ourselves reinventing the wheel many times over. Often it's justified. Well, they're reinventing the wheel and the wheel sucks. The wheel's a square, right? It's garbage. You're going to end up with the same shit that you see with Python packages and, Rust packages and what have you. Um, so they're probably doing the same thing. So once you get Zig packages in, you're going to be able to go, oh, I want to do STD1, which is full of the malwares and stuff. So they have a package manager and a build system for existing projects. Programming language, but will also ship with a build system and package manager intended to be useful even in the context of C and C++ projects. Not only can you write SIG code instead of C or C++ code, but you can use Zig as a replacement for auto tools, CMake, make. Wow. Auto tools. That's the build system. Yeah, it's a suite of programming tools designed to assist in making source code packages portable in many systems. Cool. Well, yeah, and package managers, apt-get, pacman, homebrew, and others are instrumental. They can be insufficient for developers' needs. Zig is or will be offering a way for projects to depend on native libraries directly without depending on user system package manager. Wow, that's a big thing. So simplicity. Zig has no macros and no metaprogramming, yet is still powerful enough to express complex programs in a clear, non-repetitive way. Even Rust has macros with special cases like format bang, which is implemented in the compiler itself. Meanwhile, in Zig, equivalent function is implemented in the standard library with no special code case in the compiler. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Hey, Digital Warhead. I'm looking forward to stumbling over a ton of shit while everyone stares and points and laughs. So, yeah. No, I know y'all won't do that. I love y'all. So, yeah, there's a document and a reference library. If you want to learn, you can learn with me. Um, you know, in-depth overview, code examples. So you get some memory leak detection using using std.heap.general purpose allocator. You can track double freeze and memory leaks. Okay, so this little bit here will check and make sure that you've done that. There's pub func main, bang void. I don't know what that means. So yeah, there's a whole environment inside of the VS Code that for Zig. So we'll give that a shot. Oh, here's importing a C header file and linking to both libc and raylib. So you can link to both of them and use your C code or use your not C code. Oh, you've got some kind of UI here: screen width, screen height, close window, set target FPS, zigzag. Zig is optimized for coding interviews. Not really. Coding interviews is the devil. Thanks, Digital Warhead. Love you, man. Yeah. So there you go. Generic types, comp time values, and we use functions that return a type to implement generic algorithms. So we'll look through this. We'll see what goes. If everyone it's up to other folks too. If you get bored, you want to hang out and learn Rust or something, we can try that too. I just have to bite the bullet and install a bunch of shit on my my laptop and desktop here to make sure it works. with the understanding that in about 2.5 weeks I'll be in about 2 weeks it may be like, hey, I'm going to take a week off, and then when we get to the new house, like the week of you know the 27th will be like the first stream that we do after I get back to the new place. So because I'm going to be taking the 22nd and 23rd off of real work to move. So it is what it is. So, oh, well, you can use curl to pull down files. Oh, good. So, already got our first, vulnerability, putting curl in the system. So curl opt, https ziglang.org. Okay. Right. Function callbacks. Okay. I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, hey, why don't you just learn C? That would be the way to do it, and there's probably enough cheap, read free tutorials out there on doing all that. And my thing has always been, I don't know what to do with it once I've learned it or been dangerous enough to understand it. I don't know what I want to do with it. I mean, can I use it to automate things at work? I don't know. You know, obviously I'm not a developer, so I don't know what I would do with that, and everybody's probably using Java anyway out there. So check. So I did say this was going to be a little shorter than normal. I have to go get ready for my daughter's last concert at her high school, so I'm gonna go make myself presentable. And yeah, thanks to Digital Warhead. Oh, with Apple having iOS already, how did they not call it Eyes OS instead of Vision OS? Did did they call Vision? What? How did they not call it iOS instead of Vision OS? I don't know. Is that what the new is that what the new name for the Apple goggles OS is? Vision OS. Vision Pro for spatial computer. Spatial computer, by the way. Ah, okay. Okay. Ah, okay. That's a really big headband on the back of their head there. Poor dog. Okay, I guess so. I'm hoping they'll progressively get smaller. So it'll be like, eventually it'll be like, kind of like this, but not sucky. Um, and, you know, wouldn't iOS have been perfect? Yeah, I mean that would make a lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, that no, that gives me anxiety right there. That guy, and I'm seeing it over here. Jesus, that I can't do that. I can't do that. That where the hell's he working where it looks like that? Nobody works in an office that looks that nice. Um, I mean, once they go to AR, like what Age of Music said, it's going to be virtual keyboards and shit. So yeah, can you walk around with these in public? Would you want to walk around with these in public? I mean, you've already got people with the earbuds in their ears all the time, and you can't hear shit. My boss made me build an IRC client in PHP one time, which is a terrible language for something persistently running. I didn't understand why until I was finished. He wanted me to do it just to learn how to build something without any documentation. Wow. Yeah, Digital Warhead, you're right. Somebody will be walking around with that on. I'm trying to figure out how you would work and walk at the same time. Does it do a virtual keyboard thing? Okay, so you've got immersive. I actually paid $500 for a set of like AR goggles and stuff on Kickstarter. The problem I had with it was the the mirrors wouldn't focus right, so it was always out of focus, which kind of sucked for me. The transparent lens. Okay. Okay. First three-dimensional camera. Now, Age of Music. Now that's premeditation. You know how they frown upon premeditation now. Um, I mean, it was what the glass whole thing, back with Google Glass was ahead of its time. Um, yeah, no, I'm sorry that's gonna make me ill. I can't do that shit. It just can't. I just can't. Yeah, see, oh yeah, here's the video. She's standing in her bedroom talking to these three people, Grandma, Uncle, Chad, and Bob. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing for me, I don't know why it does it, but it's like, yeah, moving my head, it just causes me to just get all janky. So maybe it's the fact that maybe the see-through part of it will make me less disoriented. Yeah, yeah, $4,000 or 3,500 for these plus tax. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So all right, folks. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me for at least for an hour. I'll try to be back on Friday for a little longer because we learned Zig. If you want to hang out and do that with me, get it installed on your VS Code, and we'll go through some of the tutorial stuff. So yeah, all right. Oh yeah, Digital Warhead. I'll see you tomorrow at CSEC East. We're gonna be at Dosa House in Bellevue if you're in the area. So. That's in Bellevue, right down the street from Microsoft campus. So, all right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.